All right, click the links to join the channel here over at SubStars, now over at Odyssey. So honestly, this video could be a couple hours. There's a lot to this, way under the surface for most of this stuff. The thing is, Starship Troopers, what we were talking about the other week, broadly, the left wing hates beauty. They hate skinny, blonde, large-breasted women. And the thing is, the breasts are important. I guess they're important, but the blonde is probably the more important aspect of it. Because the left wing sees themselves as the ugly insects. When we had that Starship Trooper conversation last week, the bug men who are drinking they're even called bug men. It's like, oh, eating bugs is some racist conspiracy theory. Next week, why you need to eat bugs to save the planet. The bug men who are drinking their soy and have kind of given up so hard on being men or trying to be better men that they go the opposite direction. They grow their hair out and they dress like women. The left is bitter in general. You can look at a large group of people and you can split the groups into right or left based on attractiveness. Maybe you factor in body fat as well. When we on the right are chubby, we know it's bad. We don't pretend that we're attractive or stunning and brave. And we're not going to learn to love obesity and learn to love and accept your roles, or some of the ridiculous articles I've seen. Why don't you just eat less and get in shape? You know that adipose tissue is not good for you, right? We might not care about being a few pounds over fat, but we don't think we're sexy. At least most of us are just more honest about it. The left wing is the body fat acceptance branch, because they don't want to lose fat and simply eat less. I mean, it really is that easy. So they created an entire movement about changing the world to accept their ugliness instead of just eating less and moving. So they have magazines and news shows and universities pushing this, fat pride type of nonsense, and like fat queer poetry, but nobody really believes in it except for the people who are also 300 pounds. In the real world, the top of the hierarchy in your IRL day-to-day is lean, fit, attractive people. Life is easier when you're in great shape. People are nicer to you and you're nicer to the world. So the left tries to push this fat movement as all bodies are beautiful, but nobody believes it because it takes two people to validate that concept. Otherwise, the term beauty is meaningless if it's in a vacuum. It's like the whole trans pronoun thing. We don't accept that the person is the other sex. So the movement is running out of steam, and that movement will eventually collapse. I mean, the fat acceptance movement already has collapsed. The other people saying all bodies were beautiful, we're only other fat people, and usually, purple hair, shaved side of the heads, pierced everything, and, tattooed a bunch of people who've kind of given up on life. And a lot of mental illness, to be fair. Nobody believed it. They're not making movies trying to push fat people as sex objects. Even saying that, like, you cringe to hear that being said because nobody would watch them. Hollywood lives in an echo chamber, but they're just not that crazy. I'm sure Epstein and the rest weren't chasing Lizo types, or Weinstein wasn't getting them up into hotel rooms, that kind of stuff. And they're not, they're chasing young, beautiful women, probably look a lot like this, or in some cases, they're chasing young, beautiful men. So there's the kind of the artificial woke fictional construct, but nobody believes it. And when we think of woke, the left, globalism, communism, we think of estrogen-filled, soft, weak soy boys. The physiognomy is real crowd, or fat cat ladies with purple hair. It's not that the right is all good looking, but the left wing is fat, ugly, single, childless, and they're bitter about it. And they hate the right wing for being the opposite. They want to eat their cake and be viewed as attractive as, who's this chick, Sydney Sweeney? I gotta admit, I have never seen her in a film, or the other chick you're talking about, but life doesn't work like that. I mean, why would you watch anything in Hollywood now? The thing is, nobody wants to see Tess Holliday in a role that Sydney Sweeney would play. It's not phobia, it's disgust and a whole lot of pity, because we don't want to see somebody eating themselves to death. Anyway, the straw man right-wing goal is good-looking, healthy people in a family and surrounded by their tribe, but the left-wing goal is trans, interracial, purple-haired parents who sterilize their own children. The deeper underlying concept is out-group preferences versus in-group. The right and all non-white groups are race-based and tribalist. only the white left wing is brainwashed enough by globalist media to be outgroup preference focused. The goal was the Frankfurt School bullshit found family concept. Reject your blood tribe, your patriarchy, your religion and ceremony, and join this metastable found family that will collapse as soon as it's under stress. That's the goal all along. And the puppet masters, they want to command individuals from a top down, a hierarchy with them obviously at the top, and lines going to many small individuals or small individual groups of left-wing, very depressed people. But if you're an ethno-national focused tribalist, you're able to resist propaganda from that outgroup. And usually there's going to be some kind of religion that goes along with this. And in this case, the outgroup are lizard people who actually hate you. The Marxists have to deconstruct and dismantle society, which they've already done. There is no turning the ship around. There's only forming local identity groups, networking, and separation from the bullshit, useful idiots. A strong, healthy, in-group focused family with tradition and ceremony makes strong nations, which can't be controlled by globalists. So they simply use the power of media and schools brainwashing to destroy everything and everyone. And you just have to, Libs of TikTok is doing the Lord's work over there on YouTube. Take a look at what the schools are teaching and what the just useful idiots programming future useful idiots. So fascism is order, structure, and tribalism. So they destroy it in as many ways as they possibly can. Because the right, I guess if you want to use the strawman fascism, it has rules and limits. Even something as simple as saying that you should be fit and trim, find a good person of the opposite sex who shares your own community spirit and values and whatnot, and form families and join the tribe and be stable. And all those things it's that concept of beauty. Well, if the left says, well, everyone is beautiful in their own way, it's like, well, then the word doesn't mean anything. But it feels good to say that. And they do this with a lot of hot phrases all the time. They keep just repeating these phrases, and when you actually try to engage with them, they'll keep throwing platitudes at you for a while, and then unless you can calm them down enough to actually be serious, and you go, well, yeah, but like, can we discuss this objectively and logically? The words have meaning. Beauty has meaning. The word beauty has meaning. But they're at the point now where they asking them to define what a woman is absolutely triggering to them. And that's not like, oh, that's your one joke. It's not. It's an unresolved. The joke still works because they haven't been able to resolve that. So he's actually talking about the Doritos thing, which is interesting, but it's related, and it's not the Doritos thing that's at issue here, but it's all just facets of the same crystal. So something interesting is happening. It's this phenomenon of people are being called istophobic, and now they're just saying, yes, so what? Who cares? Once you cross that Rubicon, they don't know what to do with that, because, like, where do you go from there? Oh, we need to put you people in re-education camps and probably delete you. I don't know if you saw that interview with those two writers. I forget the names of the writers, talking about rural rage. More on that on the alt platforms. The thing is, people care less about being manipulated by globalist lizard people, so their control terms are losing power. What does blonde with big tits mean? Gratuitous sex is still degenerate, but this is a step in the right direction. So he took the approach of signaling an end to body diversity because we like skinny blondes with big tits. But the body diversity was already on the way out. I think that was probably peaked in 2015 because nobody likes fat chicks. And I say chicks because that was the only thing that obesity acceptance was really pushing. For some wacky reason in their advertising and their magazines, most of it was pushing fat chicks and not fat dudes, because it's ridiculous enough, but for some reason, like, yeah, why don't you have a picture of some 300-pound woman, 300-pound man up there? It's like, because people would just turn away. It's like, yeah, nobody's on board with either one of those things. The Calvin Klein ad with this chick must be like 300 pounds and she's modeling underwear, and you're having people, like, the look in their faces when they look at this kind of stuff. Nobody's on board with it, and you go like, what is going through Calvin Klein's mind when they do that? Anyway, nobody wants to see fat people. Fat people don't want to see fat people. It's just another facet of Weimar. The fat thing was attempted, I don't know, for like 2 years, and then like a lot of those people started to have heart attacks and strokes, and it was just too disgusting for people to accept. And the funny thing is, a lot of these people have come around and started dieting. The people who were pushing fat acceptance. The reasoning is because obesity is the easy path. Anyone can eat and not move. You can't hold up fat, lazy people as goals in society. It'd be like idolizing low IQ junkie criminals. It would be the end stage of a civilized out. Now the undercurrent sort of deals with Starship Troopers and the fact that the left is ugly and misshapen lumps of butter who have to constantly tell themselves that being 300-pound sacks of garbage is actually beautiful, and that to uphold fitness is fascist, which, yes, it is. And that's a good thing. In Starship Troopers, the left identifies as the disgusting bugs, the mindless drones following orders from their Larry Fink puppet masters. It's why the director in that interview was saying it's so difficult to parody fascism. That should tell you something. Maybe like if your only understanding of it is a straw man version of these things that you parrot from your globalist teachers and brainwashed media. Because apparently in their mind, that means clean, safe cities of fit, healthy people. That sounds awesome. I don't think I'm reading too much into this. All this pop culture cancer is still the example of globalist propaganda. And woke is just a distraction. And from many other things, the grow the tall grass theory of what they're doing under the table. And they control the platform so well that, like, in the mainstream platforms, there's not going to be any real conversations happening. Live streams, yes. Live streams you can get away with a little bit, but in pre-record videos, you can't. Anyway, so she mentioned the movie with that other chick, and when she was on Saturday Night Live, that other chick that nobody saw, Spider-Girl movie, what's it called? Madam Web. It's like, hey, you followed up the Marvels movie with another girl power flick. Aren't they, like, why would you think these movies would do well? It's like, it's not about, hey, it's got chicks and diversity. Yeah, nobody cares. We don't even have to bother seeing the movie. If it's got diversity or chicks in it, it's going to be cringe feminist propaganda to the point where even the left isn't supporting these kind of movies. Thing is, I don't know if this is let me click on this article. I don't know if this is a good sign or or just an interesting one, because the reality is the woke SJW movies are not making money. And the passive aggressiveness in some of these. I hope one of my comments isn't visible because I'm very offensive. The passive aggressiveness from these people, like pretending not to understand what woke is, it's friggin' bizarre. But it doesn't, like, they can argue all they want on social media. The reality is these movies are losing, a ton of real money that is catching up with the companies because they're publicly traded companies. You can track the quarterly reports. So the Eternals was a great example of body diversity, I guess, and nobody watched it, mainly because if I remember this, when that movie came out, I went back and I read the comics, not Stan Lee, but who's the other guy? Kirby. They're like space god computers or something, organic computers. Oh, cool. So they're going to, pick the peak fitness and health and beauty and whatnot. No, one of the guys is like 50 pounds overweight, and some of them have disabilities. And the two chicks are in their 50s. Don't get me wrong. They're in great shape. They look phenomenal. But if you're like growing your own body in a space god laboratory, that's just ridiculous. One girl, yeah, she's hard of hearing or deaf or something. Okay. Why? I don't know. That's not how the comic was. So maybe you should stick a little bit, honor Kirby a little bit more. His has great busy background scenes when things was like, I don't know what you call that. It's like the Millennium Falcon, the spacecraft in the Star Wars movie, where there's just a bunch of crap on the outside of the ship. It's like, wouldn't that be covered up to like with armor to protect it from micrometeorites or something like that? It's like, no, it's just got to look like it's doing stuff. That's what Kirby was great at, just drawing these great big industrial machines with gears and dials. And it's like he didn't, wasn't an engineer. He had no idea what he was doing, but it looked cool as hell. So big titty, skinny blonde chicks. There's a theory on here about milkers versus butts, and it's talking about the type of here it is. Big butts in time of famine, boobs in a time of prosperity. The shift towards boobs is a harbinger, one who goes before the king of abundance and wealth. And I know that because I was listening to Metallica, and I didn't know if the guy was saying harvester of sorrow or harbinger of sorrow. And kind of the song kind of worked either way, but that was like 30 years ago. Where was I going with this? I mean, this is just, he's not a serious comment. It's off the cuff, and you can go through his responses, and they're just freaking bizarre, but they're a lot of fun. The thing is, stop having the lizard people in Hollywood tell us what we want. Stop paying for the bread and circuses. That's the bottom line, is the financial aspect of it. You don't need to support any of this stuff. Live streaming, small live streaming platforms, you go over to Odyssey and Rumble, and there it is a growing, like, you're right in the middle of it. You're at the beginning stages of it right now, where Odyssey as a live streaming platform, and you're seeing this movement of small live streamers. Like, this is the beginning of YouTube, where I don't know, the PewDiePie, the Philip DeFranco type of stuff, like 2030. I don't know when that really kicked off. When did YouTube get bought by Google? And when that like big independent YouTuber kicked off, like 15, 20 years ago or something. This is where the alt media is right now. It's fascinating to watch and to see which, like, obviously they're never going to get as big as that, because it's alt media. You're not going to get advertising. It's all viewer supported. But it's exciting to get on Odyssey and look to see that there's like a dozen live streams going on at night. It's fantastic. Anyway, the other aspect is get online and tell people what you want. Share your feelings. My feelings are that feminism and diversity is all cancer. Oh, let me go to Richard, his article. This is on his Substack, and he's a pretty solid writer, makes a bunch of good points, as I mentioned earlier. The thing is, we don't value globalist propaganda. Beautiful things can be valuable just because they're rare and beautiful, as two things are tied together. A skinny blonde with milkers, globally speaking, is ultra rare. The opposite is common, and it's like the fat chick push 10 years ago. Nobody values the fatties because they're not rare. Most of the world is made up of fat, blobby people. They seem to be fungible. Everything Hollywood does is degenerate. So if they give you a blonde with milkers, they're going to find some way to degrade and dehumanize her, because, again, they're lizards who obviously hate European people, and blonde and red hair is the top of the food chain, because while symmetry and health is related to beauty, so is rarity. And the rest of the world just doesn't have those external morphological variables. Europeans are the rarest, most beautiful people. Blonde, red, I don't know, what do you call brown hair? Auburn hair? To black hair, to the eye colors of blue, green, hazel, gray. Am I skipping one? I don't think so. It's kind of weird that we actually literally are the people of color. But that's another deep issue. The globalists need to invert the mirror world. Everything that comes from the mainstream is going to be toxic in one way or another. It's been subverted and corrupted for so long now. There's nothing in the mainstream that is pure and honest. They wouldn't allow it in the mainstream if it was. Even when you find a movie that you think isn't woke, and this, I can't go into too much details, for the alt platforms, maybe I'll do a video for this, is the breakdown of movies, is I promise you, if you think it's not woke, you're just not far down enough the rabbit hole to see it. And I know you're thinking, like, oh, you're so cynical, you're in confirmation bias. No, because I can explain it. I can go through a bunch of these movies as examples on the alt platforms, not on YouTube. The thing is, they've shifted the window so far in the past roughly 60 years that you haven't noticed it. It's the con ops conservative equivalent of bragging about how left-wing essentially the right-wing party is, how BLT or whatnot, your conservative party is, with the Charlie Kirk and his partner up there on stage being interviewed by the Groypers, and the guy asking him, well, what part of this backdoor stuff is how's that a conservative value? And it's like, let's discuss this. And he didn't have an answer for it, because it's like it's all plastic. It's all a house of cards built on sand. Like, none of it is real. And as soon as you start asking harsh questions, it's like the whole thing would break apart instantly if you had an open mic and people actually asking real questions, because he doesn't have an answer to that. It's like, oh, these are conservative values. I mean, I'm not saying nothing against the BLT community, but it's like, let's at least discuss these things. Like, what exactly are you conserving if those are your values? Where Trump is saying he doesn't care what bathroom people are using. The thing is, everything is, and I'm not saying, the thing is, you hear that and you think it's like one way or another. I'm not saying it's one way there. I'm saying, don't just say things that sound good for the moment. It's like, put the dogma out there, and left wing or right wing, no mainstream politician wants to do that because they don't want to be nailed down to it. That's why the left wing does this a little bit more, with being terrified to define words, because they don't want to be subject to a cross-examination and a vigorous rebuttal after they define those words. The thing is, everything in the mainstream is a glow job. And the whitest of white pills is the growing alternative media, where you can finally get to diversity of thought. And yes, you're going to hear some objectionable language. Not from me, but from the other platforms. Occasionally, you'll hear stuff. It's like you just have to, just get used to it. That's just how people speak. If you really want diversity of thought, it's like, well, then you have to be around people who think differently. Like, wait a minute, I don't want to leave my echo chamber. Well, I mean, that's how you learn. Anyway, so blonde and titties is woke over. This is a long video. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join the subscribe server, the various other links, and I'll see you guys all next episode.